Hi, welcome back to Sophie's Books, or welcome if you're new here. Today's video is going to be my October TBR. I honestly can't believe that we are now in October. September seemed to go by so quickly, but I really enjoy October. It really is starting to feel like autumn outside, so I'm really excited to share my October TBR. What I would say is it is a very unrealistic TBR. I am not deluded. I know that I'm never going to get through all of these books in 1 month, but I think for me it's just good to have a nice selection of books that I can pick from. I do like to have structured TBRs, but I'm also a mood reader, so I like being able to have the balance of the two. So let's get started then. So first up we have My Vampire Plus One by Jenna Levine. So I read a book by Jenna Levine a couple of years ago. I think it's called My Roommate is a Vampire, and that was a really good time. It's basically about this woman who moves into an apartment and her roommate is a vampire, and there's romance in there. So yeah, I'm really excited to read another book by her. So I'm not sure exactly what this is about, but it looks like it's going to be some kind of fake dating premise, and then the two are going to end up falling in love. So yeah. But it says Amelia Collins is tired of constant questions about her non-existent dating life, so she decides to get everyone off her back once and for all by finding someone to pose as a date to a family wedding. And then Reginald Cleves has centuries of experience at being rude, infuriatingly arrogant, and a fashion eyesore which makes him perfect for her purposes. So this looks like it's going to be a really fun time. Next up is the third book in a trilogy. This is Mina and the Cult by Amy McCall, and this is part 3 of the Mina and the Undead trilogy. So this series is set in New Orleans, and it's very much got the 90s Buffy vibe to it. Amy McCall is a massive fan of Buffy herself, so you can really see that coming through. And the fact that these books are designed to be like a videotape. So we have VHS here and it's Be Kind Rewind, so I love that. I think that's great. So yeah, I read the last 2 books quite a while ago now, so I will probably have to remind myself of what happened in those before I pick this one up. There is a sister dynamic, there's also young love, and there's vampires and supernatural goings on in New Orleans, and there's also a lot about family lineage and uncovering the mystery about Mina and her sister's mother as well. But yeah, I found these books a really easy read, so I'm interested to see how Amy McCall ends the series. Well, I think it's the end of the series. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to reading that. Then I have a book that's been on my TBR for quite a while now, and that is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. Now I know that Ali Hazelwood does a lot of romance books. I haven't read anything by her yet, but as I like more of the supernatural vibe to my books, I thought that I would start by trying out Bride. So I think this focuses on vampires and werewolves. Misery Lark is the only daughter of the most powerful vampire counsellor, and I think that she ends up in a marriage of convenience with the vampire's mortal enemies, the werewolves. And this is to uphold a historic alliance between the two species. But apart from that, I don't really know what happens in this. But yeah, I'm excited to read my first Ali Hazelwood and see if she is an author that I would enjoy. As I think I said before, I'm not really a massive rom-com reader, so I would be interested to see if I do like Ali Hazelwood's writing. So next up I have a couple of books that I received in my Evernight subscription with the Luma Crate, and it's about time I read them. So first is Silver Nitrate by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. As you know from my September TBR, Silvia Moreno Garcia is one of my favourite authors. I didn't manage to get to The Bewitching in September, but I think I will maybe give this one a try, as this one's been on my TBR for longer. So yeah, I'm not really sure about the plot, but I know that I love Silvia Moreno Garcia. So I think this is set in 1990s Mexico City, and we follow a video editor who is very much overlooked within the industry that is dominated by men. And there comes a chance to be involved in the production of a cult horror classic, but I think the director believes that he has been cursed and he hasn't been able to finish this film. That's about all I know, but I'm really intrigued to see if this one is going to be another great read. I love that a lot of Silvia Moreno Garcia's books are set in Mexico. I like hearing more about the culture of Mexico through the kind of horror vibe. The next book I have is another Evernight book, and this I think is actually the most recent one. This is The Library at Hellebore by Cassandra Core. I read Nothing But Black and Teeth by Cassandra Core, and I thought she was a really good horror writer. Yeah, I haven't heard much about this, so I'm not sure what it's about, but it seems to be a little bit dark academia, a little bit horror. So the Hellebore Technical Institute for the Gifted is the premier academy for the dangerously powerful, the Antichrists and Ragnaroks, the World Eaters and Apocalypse Makers. Hellebore promises redemption, acceptance and a normal life after graduation. At least that's what Alessa Lee is told when she's kidnapped and forcibly enrolled, but there's more to Hellebore than meets the eye. But yeah, this one sounds right up my street. So it's quite short as well. So I'm loving these sprayed edges. If the book's design is anything to go by, I'm gonna really love it. So beautiful sprayed edges and these amazing art. So the next book is one that has been on my TBR again for a very long time, and that's Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. Now, I find Olivia Blake quite an odd author for me. I find that the books sound really intriguing. I did read the Atlas Six trilogy and also Alone with You in the Ether, and I do struggle a little bit with her writing style. It does come off a little bit pretentious, but I really want to like her books. I'm thinking that this one might be a little bit more of the books that I enjoy, so hopefully I will enjoy this one. So it's about Viola, who is a struggling estate agent and a vampire, but her biggest problem is that the house she's selling is haunted. The ghost haunting this mansion has been murdered, and until he can solve the mystery of how he died, he refuses to move on. Needless to say, this is not good for business. Yeah, that sounds like a really intriguing concept, and I'm really excited to read this. So next I've got a book that I haven't had very long. I think I got it a couple of months ago, and this is Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. So this is a retelling of Carmilla, which was actually one of the first vampire novels published. Many people think that Dracula is the main inspiration for a lot of the vampire stories we have today, but actually Carmilla was published before Dracula was. So the synopsis says that Lenora is the wife of steel magnate Henry, but 10 years into their marriage the relationship has soured and no child has arrived to fill the distance growing between them. Henry's ambitions take them from London to the Peak District to the remote, imposing Nethershore estate where he plans to host a hunting party. Lenore must work to restore the crumbling house and ready it for Henry's guests. Their future depends on it. But as the couple travel through the bleak countryside, a shocking carriage accident brings the mysterious Carmilla into Leonora's life. Carmilla, who is weak and pale during the day, but vibrant at night. Carmilla, who stirs up something deep within Lenora, and before long, girls from the local villages fall sick, consumed by a terrible hunger. So this says it's set against the violent wilderness of the peaks and the uncontrolled appetite of the Industrial Revolution. Hungerstone is a compulsive sapphic reworking of Camilla, the book that inspired Dracula. Books about vampires are one of my favourite genres, so I'm really excited to get to this. So next up I have a sequel to a book that I read earlier this year, and that was The Forest Grimm by Catherine Purdy. So we have the sequel, which is The Deathly Grimm. So this is a retelling of the Brothers Grimm. It's a YA duology, but I really enjoyed the first book. So The Forest Grimm is set in a village which is next to a forest, and the forest has magical properties, and some of the villagers have gone into the forest but never come back. Clara's mother is among one of the villagers who went into the forest and didn't come back. And then we also have Axel, whose fiance also walked into the forest and never came back out. So in the first book, we see these two come together. So in the first book, Clara and Axel are entering the forest to see if they can find out what happened to Clara's mother and Axel's fiance. And along the way, we meet a lot of different characters who have featured in the Brothers Grimm tales. So this brings new life to the Brothers Grimm tales. And I really enjoyed how Catherine Purdy had brought these myths back to life within her book and had given us this new mythology for the Brothers Grimm stories. So next up on my TBR is This Monster of Mine by Shalini Abiskera. Again, I don't know a lot about this. It says here that it's a dazzling ancient Rome-inspired fantasy. This monster of mine is a bloodbath of manipulation, deception, and forbidden love. So it also says, Sarai doesn't know why someone tried to kill her, but she does know that her case was closed without justice. 4 years later, she returns to the scene of the crime with a new face and a new job as a petitor, a prosecutor who can magically detect lies. She is assigned to work with the ice-cold and perennially sadistic Tetrarch Kadra, the most vicious of the 4 judges who rule the land, and the prime suspect in a string of deaths identical to Sari's attempted murder. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this, so I'm intrigued to see if I do enjoy it. So then we have The Glittering Edge by Alyssa Villar. So I've heard that people say this one gives Buffy vibes. It's quite witchy, a little bit occult, so I'm excited to read this. The synopsis says, the locals of Idlewood whisper a tragic love story that began a decades-long blood feud. For as long as anyone can remember, the DeLuca witches and the wealthy Barrion family have been sworn enemies, ever since the curse that changed their fates forever. Now, if a Barrion falls in love with you, you'll die. But when Penny, Amberly's mother, becomes the curse's latest victim, Penny must bring together 2 bitter rivals, Alonzo and Corey, in order to save her mum's life and stop the feud for good. Yeah, this has been on my TBR for a few months now, so I'm excited to try and get to it in October. So then we have another very hyped book. This is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V. Schwab. Now, I have read a couple of books by V. Schwab. So The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I really enjoyed, and Gallant, which didn't really live up to my expectations. But I've heard a lot of people talking about this one. A lot of people have loved it, and the tagline is toxic lesbian vampires, which sounds very intriguing. I've heard people compare it a lot to Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice, which I really enjoyed. I think we're following 3 different women in different timelines. So we have a young girl in 1532, Santa Domingo de la Calzada. A young girl grows up wild and wily, and Maria knows she can only ever be a pawn in men's games. So when an alluring stranger offers an alternate path, Maria makes a desperate choice. Then we have a story about love in 1827 London. A young woman lives a cloistered life on her family's estate until a moment of forbidden intimacy sees her shipped off to London. Once there, a beautiful widow offers Charlotte her freedom, but at what cost? And then we have a story about rage in 2019 in Boston. College was supposed to be a fresh start. That's why Alice moved halfway across the world. Then an out-of-character one-night stand leaves her questioning everything. Alice throws herself into the hunt for answers and revenge. This is a story about life, how it ends and how it starts again. yeah, this is one of my anticipated reads for the year, and I'm really excited to hopefully read this in October. Next we have another book which features vampires. You can see what theme I'm going for October. And this is Where Shadows Meet by Patrice Caldwell. Again, I'm not sure about the plot of this one. The synopsis reads, once long ago, a girl named Favre sacrificed her wings for love. Thana, the young goddess she so willingly gave them up for, sacrificed the same love for power, but everything has a cost. Favre never got over the loss of her wings, and Thana's choices led to a life of eternal night, and later their destruction. Favre has bided her time ever since, waiting for the chance to resurrect the girl she loves who turned her into the creature she hates. Now, 1,000 years later, Leda, the crown princess of a vampire nation, must travel to Nekros, the island of the dead, where her best friend is captured during an attack on the capital. Along with Naja, a fierce, beautiful seer, and the last person she expected to help her, Layla forges down a dangerous path, intent on saving her friend. But nothing is as it seems. The closer she gets to her goal, the more she risks awakening an ancient evil and destroying everything she holds dear. Yeah, I'm really intrigued by this one and excited to get to it. Then I have my last book on my October TBR, and this is one that I hauled in September and was really excited to read, so I want to try and read it this month if I can, and that's Hecate the Witch by Nikita Gill. This one's going to be really interesting for me as it is all written in verse. I'm not a big poetry reader, but I have read some of Nikita Gill's poetry before and really enjoyed it, so I think this is going to be amazing, and this is probably my most anticipated read of the year. So that was all the books that I want to read in October. As I said at the start, I don't expect to read all these. I also have a few that I didn't finish in September that potentially I would pick up in October. But I'm trying my best not to overwhelm myself with books in October, as I do also want to do more than read in the spooky season. Thanks for watching if you made it this far. Please like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to my channel for more of my content. Thanks and see you later. Bye.